Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flume Stream Entertainment Network for Sports Talk with Matt and Brent. My name's Matt Buto. I'm here with Coach Brent Coble. Brent, new season, new Sports Talk season. We're talking basketball. We're a couple weeks in. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, exciting first half of the season, Matt. Excited to get back in the studio here and get some sports talks live up on the air. Lots of stuff to talk about today.
Now, we've covered a bunch of games this season so far. You and I have covered a couple ourselves, Greg, the whole team, really. Any thoughts on the games up until now that we've covered? What are you seeing? What are you thinking? As always, it's a competitive North Country, and again, as we're having our first show for basketball, Flume Media is all over the state, covering some games down south.
Yeah, I believe Flume Media is covering Division 1, 3, and 4 this winter. We don't have any Division 2 games as of yet, but certainly getting around now. Both sides of the state, up north and south, covering Portsmouth and Pinkerton, and then we cover Pittsburgh. So that's quite a difference in miles.
Now, you coach Lisbon, and been coaching for a couple of years, developing a program the way that we like it. Any thoughts on your season so far? What's happening with your girls' team?
All right, we're getting there. We're going slow. As I've told you before, we're a 7th to 12th grade varsity program, which makes it sometimes difficult to compete with the bigger Division 4 schools. But we're getting there. Definitely saw improvement over the holiday break and the Christmas tournament. Slowly but surely, Matt, we'll get there.
Good, thanks, Coach. Now, North Country, as always, well represented. Some really strong teams: Colebrook, Littleton, Profile, and then you have your Division III teams like Berlin and White Mountains Regional, who are historically strong, but probably perhaps a year of transition for them. Let's talk real quick about Division III. Any thoughts on Berlin and White Mountains Regional in particular?
I got to see the Berlin girls yesterday. The first time I'd seen them all season. And Coach Picard's still there. Does a great job with the girls, and Coach Perry. Great to see them. Obviously, now coaching in Division 4, I don't get to see them quite as much. But it was nice to see them at the Christmas tournament. And White Mountains, both Berlin girls and White Mountains teams are struggling so far out of the gate. But, that's a competition level. That we're the only two D3 schools up north. And travel is pretty much in the cards for both of those teams all year long.
Now, the Christmas tournaments themselves allows our two Division III teams and our Division 4 teams up here in the North Country play against each other.
Yep.
Do you find those games to be competitive?
I think those games are highly competitive. A lot of times, though, you'll see some kids getting playing time that wouldn't normally get the playing time because those games right now don't count. And I know there's talk in the state that eventually these games should count. You look at the Groveton Christmas tournament, for example. You have Littleton, Groveton, Colebrook, and White Mountains. All those teams play each other twice already in the season. So realistically, they could easily make the Christmas tournament count in the regular season and take away one of those dates.
Sure. Well, let's get into it. Let's start with girls first and take a look at the standings. I know that the North Country is well represented. We have Littleton up top again, Groveton toward the top as well. Some good teams that are playing. Thoughts on the standings so
Yeah,
far?
well, let's talk Littleton girls first, Matt. Some people would be surprised by it. I'm not really surprised. Coach Pryor's a good coach. He's been there a long time. But he doesn't have his typical studs. Studs by being seniors and juniors.
Mm-hmm.
He's running pretty much an all freshman sophomore team and being very successful doing it. The girls have really bought into his program, and they look pretty good, and Colebrook's the same way. I watched Colebrook and Littleton play in the final of the Christmas tournament in Groveton the other night, and Colebrook looked pretty dominant throughout the game till the fourth quarter when they lost two of their starters. Ariana Lord went down with a sickness, and the McKegg girl also was hurt, I believe. And that's two of their top three scorers. You take them out, and it's a different game. And Littleton took advantage of that, came back and won the game.
Sure.
But yeah, those two teams right there, Matt, 6-0 and 4-0, both getting the extra point win against White Mountains. And you'll see Groveton right behind them, not far. And Groveton, I believe, plays the regional really, really soon. I think maybe next Friday or something. So, I mean, that could be Grofton's opportunity to get that extra point, too. Huge for those Division 4 schools, and they play them twice.
Now, Colbrook, Littleton, Groveton, even Woodsville. We saw a Woodsville game earlier in the season, not at Marlboro Academy. They won that game. They looked good.
They did.
But I'm not sure. I think it's been a little different. They're, 3-3? Certainly respectable. What are your thoughts on that team?
Yeah, Woodsville. We saw Woodsville at Lisbon too. They struggled in the first half against us, but they turned it on in the second half and found their groove. Again, another young team, Matt. She starts, I believe, 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and a junior, I believe. Not many senior girls to go around the North Country for some reason this year. All young basketball teams, and I expect Woodsville to be right in the thick of it at the end of the year. They're going to get into the tournament and probably make some teams unhappy.
Now, you mentioned the discrepancy with the Littleton win over White Mountains Regional point-wise as we go to the next, the second half of the Division 4 girls standings. That's something to know. But when we look here, we see Profile, we see Gorham, we see Pittsburgh, Kane, and Linwood. Again, well represented by the North Country teams. Still 2-3, 2-3, 2-4. Still very early in the season. Have you been able to see Profile, Gorham, any of these teams yet?
I've actually seen them all play. I've seen we actually Flume Media covered Profile at Lisbon.
Yes.
The second game of the season, and Profile's young as well. I don't think they roster a senior. And Maya Brown is their big scorer and defender, and she's kind of the all-around person at Profile. And Profile's matched up again. I think a couple of their losses are Littleton and Woodsville, or maybe even Groveton. Pittsburgh Canaan, I got to see them at the Christmas tournament. They lost almost their whole start. Well, they definitely lost their starting 5, but I think they lost 6 or 7 girls from last year's team. A couple girls graduated early and chose to go to school instead of come back for their senior year. So they're struggling, but they'll be right up there again. They'll probably finish 10-8, somewhere in that range, and get that playoff berth they're looking for. But young, every single team is young, and Gorham, again, I think they only lost a couple players, and they've played a couple top teams here early. But got to see them the other night, and they look good as well. They're aggressive. Coach Cassidy's got them bought into what he wants to do there, and the Gerard girl can fire it up from anywhere. So you got to know where she is on the floor at all times. And who else did we have on that list, Matt?
Profile, Linwood, obviously Lisbon. I believe that covers it. Before we go to break, I wanted to ask you a question about that Lisbon game. A new part of what Flume is providing the viewers is that in-game mic on a coach. You were the first to do that for us. Any
I was
thoughts
a guinea
on that?
pig. It was fun. It was fun, and it's not that you're going to say inappropriate things anyway when you're coaching, but it makes you more aware of what's going on around you in the game. It's one more aspect to think about, I guess. But the timeouts were fun. Basically, they're listening to what I'm telling the team, and I got to view it after, and I thought it was good. It was well done, and it was fun.
As a viewer, it was really cool to listen to. Knowing you for how long I've known you, to be able to listen to you coach, to provide some of that perspective was really cool, and I'm sure that
coaching is different, Matt, than it used to be. Especially my team is really young, and I have to prepare myself before the games to see a lot of mistakes because we are so young, and we're going to make those mistakes. We're going to have growing pains. It's trying to learn from those and move on and become better players and a better basketball team.
Well, there you have it. That is Division 4 girls, well represented by North Country teams. When we come back, we're going to take a quick look at the Division 4, Division 3, and Division 1, I believe, for boys, and I'll get your thoughts and perspectives. We'll be back in a minute or two.
What does joy look like? At Santa's Village, it looks a lot like this. Visit a world of pure joy that's closer than you think, where it's always the season for smiles, For laughs, for family, for reindeer roller coasters and cookies. For a day packed with so much fun, you'll know exactly what joy looks like. Santa's Village, pure joy, family style.
Covering you at home, at work, and at play, George M. Stevens Insurance is the only local agency to offer personal and commercial insurance, as well as health, life, and financial services. With offices throughout the North Country, we service your complete insurance needs. As a trusted choice insurance agency, we research coverage options from the nation's top companies to ensure that your policy works for you. George M. Stevens Insurance, protecting New Hampshire and Vermont since 1882.
Just like you means when I walk into the bank, I feel like home. I feel like this is home.
It's a family. It's just small like me, but it's good like me.
Just like you, I know I have the support of the bank, and my clients have the support of the bank. And to me, that just has extreme value.
I used to think college was for other people, but after a lot of hard work and thanks to an incredible support system, now I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Plume Stream Entertainment Network. This is Sports Talk with Matt and Brent. My name's Matt Buetow. This is Coach Brent Coble. Brent, let's get right into it. Boys, Division 4, thoughts?
Oh, wow. You know, Littleton comes to mind right off the top of my head. They've got some energy over there, and Coach Trevor Howard really gets everything out of those kids. And they're fun to watch. They really are. And you got the reigning champion and Woodsville Engineers up there. Believe they just took a loss to Littleton. And Groveton. Groveton's only played a couple games. I believe one got rescheduled. But again, another great coach up there, Mark Collins, working on 500 and something wins. He got his 500th win last year. You talk D4 coaches, and you got profile with the young coach over there who spent his whole summer with that basketball team, and you can, when you watch them play, you can tell. You got the Roby brothers there, and the big guy, forget his name, it'll come to me. But all around the North Country, lots of teams and lots of good teams. You know, even Colebrook for that matter. New coach Ryan Call up there. He's got the kind of the same dynamic as Coach Vincent with being a new coach, but he's the AD up there, so he's a familiar face. He's been around the rec programs up there. Again, and going all the way up to Pittsburgh Canaan with Coach Eric Hurlbert, who was on the Stratford championship basketball team in the early 90s. Yeah. So there's a lot of good coaches out there, and there's a lot of good basketball. You know, some of it is kind of sloppy so far in the early half, and I'm sure most coaches would agree with that. But you got to go through that stuff to get to where you want to be.
Historically strong teams in the North Country, and the teams that you mentioned, even the coaches, Ryan Call, I mean, everybody, just really good teams. How does that match up to the rest of the state, and how much of an impact does having, playing your games up here in the country, but it's different with basketball because there are really good basketball teams up here, really good games that are played. It's not so much of an impact going down south and playing another Division 4 team. I
agree with you, man, 100%, especially in basketball. Division 4 boys, girls as well, but has consistently had a top team come out of the North Country for a lot of years now. They've been able to compete with the Dairyfields and all those schools down south and new markets, and so it's fun to watch. Any D4 boys game you go to here in the North Country in the winter, it's usually a packed gym and a great atmosphere. Although since COVID, I was watching a game on another one of our competitors' sites the other night, and they kept mentioning how the crowds are quiet, and they're right. The crowds, the place was packed, but it was you could hear a pin drop in there the whole time, even after people scored, and it was just not like it used to be. It's I don't know if that's going to be a new trend or but I didn't really enjoy it. I like the high energy atmosphere, especially in a basketball gym.
And you and I have talked about this several times, especially up here in the North Country. That's always been a sixth man on the court. That's even the simplest of baskets goes in, and the
Place goes
places
crazy.
erupt.
You're right, man, and it's huge. It is the sixth man, and it was quite eerie to watch those games, even championship games in the Christmas tournament, and the gym was just silent.
The games we've covered, we've been loudest,
absolutely,
MoneyBall and stuff. But
yeah.
hey, we got Division IV standings. Take a quick look if you don't mind. Littleton on top, 6-0. Profile 5-0. Broughton 3-0. Woodsville 5-1. Colebrook 3-1. Again, well represented, but we see Littleton at top.
Yeah, Littleton, and again, NHIA hasn't updated, or the AD didn't put it in correctly, but Littleton should actually have 25 points and a higher 4.25 rating, because they did get that. They did beat White Mountains, which is a Division III team, and that'll change. But that's the huge thing about that, Matt. We talk about that extra points. This profile goes undefeated throughout. Littleton's going to have the edge for the 1 seed because of that extra point. And beating the Division III team. But yeah, I mean, you got Profile Littleton right at the top. Woodsville, their only loss was to Littleton. I believe Colebrook's only loss is to Littleton. I'm not sure on that one. That's to be true. But a new teams like Messinic, coming down from D3, they're 2-2. Franklin coming down from D3, 2-3. Franklin struggled the last few years. They went JV for a couple of years, and now that seemed to have worked to get them back on the competitive race here. But Concord Christian team for the last 3 years, I believe, has been in the finals or the semifinals the last few years. Dominant down south. Even teams like Newt, who we don't typically talk about, but they've got to win this year, and typically they're not sure whether they're even going to have enough kids to play or not. So it's good to see them back on the board. And Lisbon, new coach over there, Mark Locke, struggling, numbers issue, but kids want to play, and they'll continue to play there, and hopefully things turn around for some of these lower teams on the totem pole.
What are your thoughts when you take a look at these standings as a coach? Do they matter? I know the games. When you hear Littleton beat Woodsville, those types of things. But do the standings matter as a coach?
Sure, they do, because you don't really see the matter, the need for it until the end of the season. But even losing those games, you say a Profile and a Woodsville loses 2 games each to Littleton. Going to Littleton.
Yeah.
It goes through Littleton there. So the games do matter, and you definitely the games that definitely matter are the teams you should beat. And sometimes in basketball, there's a lull and there's a down night, and you lose to a team you probably shouldn't have, and that one really hurts, and that one can really hurt at the end of the season, whether you're home or you're trucking to Littleton.
We checked in earlier with Trevor Howard, the coach for Littleton, and his email response was, "We still have a lot of work to do. We still have things to work on." He's 6-0, but I love that, because he's a coach that says, you know what, we can win 6 games, but we still have to execute. We still have to play our game, and we still have to beat teams like Colebrook and Woodsville and some of the stronger teams.
Absolutely, and Littleton's always fun to watch. Coach Howard's been there for a long time, and he's still one of the younger coaches in Division IV, and he's been there a long time. Yeah. But his teams are always fun to watch. I love his high energy and the pace that they set. I was talking to my son about that the other day. They want you to play their game. And they can speed you up. They can speed you up defensively. They can speed you up offensively. And the second they get that, the game is over.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch.
Speaking of your son, Noah Coble, who plays on White Mountains Regional, White Mountains Regional, Berlin are 2 Division III teams. Any thoughts on how they're doing so far?
Yeah, Berlin's 2-2. I've heard a lot of good things about the kid and the Poulin kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of guard play they have over there. I haven't heard much about that, but I've definitely heard about the 2 bigger guys, and they're big, and they're going to manipulate their defenders with their size, and they do it well. As far as the regional, that was I I think some steps were gained forward here with the win just before break over Newfound. And in the Christmas tournament, they definitely made some strides there. They played a tough Colebrook team that they'd already lost to in the season, and ended up on top of that one, and then played a much better game against Trevor Howard's Littleton Crusader team in the Christmas tournament final.
Must have been a win for Coach Eli Vincent to get that Newfound win, to get that first win of the season. The literal components are it's a win, but I mean, I think it just must have felt really good. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You start out with that O.
Yeah.
Again, talking about the standings, if you see an O in front of you, you know things aren't very good right now. But as same for me as I tell my teams all the time, hey, we can only go up. We can only get better. We're at the bottom. We can only get better. So you got to keep the positives rolling with some of seeing that 0 in front of your record.
Now, Brent, your son Noah he started that game. And it seems like he had was it the Newfound game or was it?
He started the Christmas tournament final,
yeah. Off the bench, sophomore. I've seen the kid play. Nobody works harder out on the court than him. It's good to see.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. I've been preaching to him, be aggressive, especially on the offensive side, because defensively, you know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to play his tail off, and he's going to box out, and he's going to do his job. But he has some talent offensively, and he sometimes forgets that, and he can be a huge help to that team scoring. He can shoot, and he can go to the basket very well, and he did a lot of that the other night. But his rebounding the other night is what struck me again, as it always does. But he's just works, and he's a good example to use to show someone how to defend and how to box someone out each and every time down the court. Because that one time you miss, you're going to give up a layup.
We covered them the other night, and the things he was doing out on the court were hurting me, and I wasn't even out on the court. So
yeah, he likes to take charges. He took another charge in the Christmas tournament final there, and it just seemed like sitting back, and then I watched the game on NSN, and they said his name a lot, and then I said, that's because you're working hard and you're getting the ball because you're working hard, but it was nice to see the whole team play together as a team the other night instead of one guy or two guys, because that is the look that they have to go for. Everybody, all 5 on the court at the time, have to be a threat to the other team, and they have to all do their jobs.
And that's a White Mountains team where you see a lot of that, people just working hard, and which is good stuff. Speaking of White Mountains Regional, when we come back, what we'll do is we'll actually be sitting down with Coach Eli Vincent, the head coach for the boys team. He's going to share some thoughts and perspectives on the game and on the season. So sit tight. When we come back, Coach Vincent, the head coach for the White Mountains Regional varsity basketball team, will be back in a minute or two.
It's a perfect day.
Hi!
Why is there a bank in the woods?
We try to be wherever our customers need us. All your banking needs here for you. Wherever you are in life, we want you to start your adventure with Pasumsic Bank. That's why there's a bank in the woods.
Huh. Wait, isn't that?
Oh, great customer. Keeps a low profile.
What motivates us at Casella?
I want to help our customers recycle as much as possible.
Because I care about the environment and how our company impacts our towns.
And at Casella Organics, we find new uses for all sorts of materials.
It's hard work.
But I'm helping people every day.
And that makes me feel like part of the community. A community I care about. So I do everything I can to sustain the resources of our environment.
Casella, serving New Hampshire and part of your community.
Hi there, I'm Chuck Lloyd, president at White Mountains Community College, just talking to you a little bit about our college. We've been here since 1965. We've got 3 locations in Berlin, Littleton, and North Conway, and we're also online. We have a lot of technical programs, and we have a lot of online, remote, synchronous, asynchronous, whatever works best for your schedule. We are the only higher ed institution in New Hampshire above the notches. And what that means for us is we've got to be all things to all people. And we aim to try to do that by responding to workforce needs, industry and business, and partner locally with the needs of our communities. We could not be more excited to host new students coming in January.
We at COAS Advisors feel it's important to stay connected to the community to have the greatest impact with the people around us.
Many of us here at COAS Advisors grew up in the area. Actually, most of us did, and so we're all very connected. I mean, ultimately, everything we do is about helping people achieve their goals.
It's true. I think community is connecting to the people around us in a way that moves everybody forward. Everybody wants to make the North Country a better place.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Flume Stream Entertainment Network for Sports Talk with Matt and Brent. My name's Matt Buto. This is Brent Coble, and today we are being joined by Coach Eli Vincent, the coach for the White Mountains Regional High School Spartans boys team. Coach, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Coach, now a few weeks in, first-year coach. Any thoughts on the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good getting to know the guys better. I knew some of them through my work and working at the rec, running the rec program, and watching. I tried to get to as many games as possible, but so I know some of their games and some of that, but just getting to know them better it's been good.
Now, recently, a 56-43 win over Newfound.
Yeah, it was good to get that monkey off our back. I never doubted that we had the ability. But it was just getting some of those pieces more playing time and getting used to being more the alphas. They had been kind of sitting back in last year's team. So yeah, I think we're starting already to try to get on a roll a little bit.
Yeah, Coach, you gotta give it time to build your philosophy into what's going on there, as well as the team buying into you. And the team buying into each other, and finding those roles that you're going to need moving forward throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, getting to know, just different rotations and the pieces, when to play them and when to get them in, when they're ready. It's been a process for them and myself, but I think we're starting to hit our stride a little bit.
I like that, Coach, because there's going to be that moment where Brent said everything will come together. It's essentially a younger team. And it's a team that lost a few impact players, and you're a new coach.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's hard. I would say almost 90% of the touches on offense were run through the three guys that left, and they were high impact, highly talented guys. But we have a lot left. So
yeah, and as Matt said, you guys are young. I don't think you even roster a senior.
No.
And that junior class is huge. One of the bigger classes, I would say, in recent history of Whitefield kids and Lancaster kids, both boys and girls.
Yeah, I mean, we got some solid sophomores. You may know one of them well. But, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of talent and a lot of young kids who are just waiting to be able to given the opportunity, and I think they're ready.
Now, Coach, you mentioned being part of Coloneltown, the rec department here. That's what I've always seen for this area in particular are the feeding programs. The players that are coming up that are learning how to play basketball. And Brent and I have talked about this. The time to learn how to play is not when you're playing on the varsity team or not when you're playing in high school. How do the feeder programs look in Lancaster? How are some of the competition and the younger grades doing?
Yeah. I really this sixth grade class that's coming up, another one that you may know well. They have a lot of talent. Some of them may be watching a little bit too much NBA, getting their footwork a little off that we might need to work on a little bit. But as far as just getting those core basics down, early on is something that I've really been trying to hit hard at home and just kind of pound it through their heads that, those little things are going to be the difference between winning a game and not, just those little minute details. But there's a lot of talent coming up, and I'm definitely excited for what the future holds for sure.
As you say that, Coach, I'm thinking about, obviously, I coach over in Lisbon. Yeah. And as I've told Matt before, we're spending most of our practices learning how to jump stop, how to box out, how to rebound, and these are high school girls. Right. So it does take away from what you really want to do as a coach, but you can't put a product out there without doing that stuff and practicing it and touching on that kind of stuff day in and day out. I think we turned the ball over 30 times the other day, and 15 of those were jump stopping after we caught the basketball. And those things get frustrating. It's so you just got to continue to work, and the feeder programs here in Lancaster have always been good. And it's fun to you'll see a different perspective being the varsity coach. Now you'll have a little more pull, even as the rec director. You'll have a little more pull with the kids because you're a higher stature, and they're going to look up to you for those things. And it's definitely basketball related as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I hope that maybe they'll want to listen a little bit more. Not that they were, not good listeners before, but maybe just a little bit more incentive to do that. But yeah, no, there's definitely a want to learn for these older kids who are the high schoolers. There's some of the things I came in expecting maybe some of us to know, and just trying to temper where we need to work on the most.
Yeah. And it must be nice having that connection. You're coaching the varsity team, obviously have an impact on the JV team. But, spending time with players that are fifth, sixth grade, third, fourth, whatever it might be, philosophically, you can start kind of incorporating some of the things that you want to do at a really young age.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some of them, like I said, those, even the higher ups from the varsity level, they want to watch those Steph Currys and those, James Hardens. But obviously, as we know in the North Country, refs are a little less eager to let some of those things go, and just to try to temper their expectations of what things are going to look like. But yeah.
Now, recently, lost to Littleton. Recently lost to Littleton in the tournament. What do you, as a coach, take from those games, and what do the conversations look like with the players after a loss?
Yeah, so the first time we played Littleton, just obviously, if you got to watch it, it was a rough watch, and I had to close my eyes for half of it. No, but it was not easy watching the first game. But if you watch the second time we played them, I think you're starting to see where we're headed. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I know Littleton didn't necessarily throw everything at us, but I think next time we go to play them, they'll have to think about us a little bit more. And I want those guys to be able to see the progress that they are making, and I think it's pretty evident that we've made some strides, and we're heading in that direction.
And like as you said, you got kind of a fourth and fifth starter that could be anybody on any given night.
Yeah.
And obviously you'll figure that out as the season goes on. But that's a nice thing to have, where some guy's not stepping up this night, and you got another player right there ready to do the job.
Yeah. No, nobody should ever feel comfortable just with their position just because they have talent. It's what you put on the practice court every night. I came in and I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they were starting fresh. Nobody was going to be handed anything. And I think each and every one of them, whoever gets that opportunity, they're working hard, and this group really works hard from top to bottom, and that's something I really appreciate.
I got one more question, and I just want to know your thoughts on this Christmas tournament in general. Do you think my philosophy on is that the games probably should count, and you should probably take a date away. If you're going to play these same three teams, you don't really need to play them 3 times a year. Maybe take a date away later in January or whatnot and use these games that count. I know there's talk in the state that these tournament games are going to start to count sometime. When? Who knows? There's always talk going on about that kind of thing. I just kind of want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, personally, and Coach Foss, who's the coach of the girls, we've had conversations about this, and I mean, I know our relationship with Groveton is good, and we want to keep that going back. But to face a team 3 times in a year, it's tough to beat a team twice in a year, back to back, let alone 3 times in a year. And it's just, I would love to see a little different faces, probably, if I could, if it's not going to count. If it's going to count, that's one thing. But if it's not going to count, I'd love to, just see as many different looks as we can against different faces, personally. But I mean, we took it pretty much as a glorified scrimmage as best we could, and tried to work on some of the things that we were lacking, really man-to-man principles, trying to help get better at our help defense because it looked very shaky against Newfound. Just trying to work on those little things, trying to hammer home boxing out like you've stated with your girls and everything. I mean, I always said, we're not going out there and not trying to win, but we may not throw out, everything that we have just because, we do get to play them again in maybe a couple weeks. So that's, it was good to get those more reps because we didn't have a lot of preseason scrimmages.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to throw out games that don't necessarily count towards our record didn't hurt us. But as long as we came out healthy, which we did, it was good.
And the reason I say that is because over the last few years, the NHIA has tried to shorten the basketball season as well as the ADs. And to me, it would just seem like an easier idea using these Christmas tournament games to count in your record, your regular season record, which would shorten up the season because you're going to lose another date somewhere down the road, maybe even 2 if you're playing 2 games. Some of those, I know the Lakes Region tournament is 3 days of games.
Oh, yeah.
So you're getting 3 games in over break right there, and people are hanging around. People aren't going away on Christmas because of that already. I just think it's a great time to easier solution to shorten the season up a little bit.
Well, Coach, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And there you have it, Coach Eli Vincent, the head coach for the White Mountains Regional Spartans boys team. Thanks again for your time. Thanks again for your thoughts. And when we come back, Brent and I will finish up and see what's going to happen for the rest of the season. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Plume Stream Entertainment Network. for Sports Talk with Matt and Brent. My name's Matt Buto. This is Coach Brent Coble. Brent, I want to talk Moneyball.
Yeah, great. Good thought there, Matt. Moneyball is back, obviously. We're well up over $400. The last game you and I got to do, I think we had 12 or 13 Moneyballs in the game.
Day.
And we've got a new sponsor from Moneyball, which is really cool. The Adaptive Sports Partners of the North Country. Again, when we did that game, I talked about them a little bit. My school, my special ed team, and we went with them all fall for hikes on Tuesdays. A great group of people over there. Nate, the director, is a great guy. They have so many volunteers that come from near and far. It's just a great organization, and I'm glad to be working with them.
Excellent. We're hoping to actually get them to a game or maybe even a show to come in, talk about the program. Over $400, Moneyball, Frosty Ball, Jingle Ball. Speaking of that, I know that Greg over at Kaze Dojo, and was it Alberitos, I believe, that also contributed some additional money to get this pot up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Greg over at the Kaze Dojo. You know, Greg's one of us. He calls games for Flume. Put in $100, and that was the fastest $100 spent I think ever on 3-point shots.
Yeah.
It certainly pumped the pot right up, Matt. It was fun to see, and Alberito's doing the same thing. But it's great to have Greg on board, and Greg does a great job when he is calling the games, and I think both of us will have a chance to work with him at least once or twice this season. I know I will.
Yeah. We've had some fun with it. We were at White Mountains, and Sean, I believe it was Sean who challenged us to. They were using Jingle Ball, I believe, and they were challenging us to change it up a little bit. And I think the players hear us on that court because we're yelling and screaming about Moneyball. Next thing you know, there's 30 Moneyballs that are going.
Typically it's a Moneyball, but that night we were at the regional, we're yelling Frosty Balls. Fans are probably thinking, what the heck is going on behind us? But no, that was fun. That was a great challenge to have, and I think Frosty Ball takes the cake.
I do too. I would agree.
I don't know what Sean and Greg have to say about that, but I certainly believe Frosty Ball is a lot better.
Well, we had a lot more. I think it was very inspiring for the players to hear that because it was the 13 3-pointers.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We certainly saw a few, and speaking of that, I think we're going right back to the regional, Matt, you and I here next week.
Yeah, but real quick, that all goes to Adaptive Sports Partners of the North Country. Absolutely wonderful program. We're over $400 already. We're marching toward, I think Chad's goal was $1,000.
Yep.
And again, special thank you to Greg over at Kaze Dojo and to Alberitos for helping us get to that limit.
I think that's a easily attainable number for us this year. I think we've done 9 games. We've probably got 24, 25 more games on the docket. So I think we're going to hit that number.
So, special thanks to Alberitos, Kaze Dojo, Greg Williams. Of course, Flume Media, Chad puts this all together and say, hey, you know what, I believe it was Chad's idea for Moneyball, and that money's going back to a local organization, North Country organization, nonprofit that's helping people.
Well, I believe we're going right back to Adaptive Sports of the North Country with the Moneyball total this year.
Yes, that's all going.
And so another great nonprofit organization, and that money will be well spent.
Absolutely. Speaking of games coming up, to finish up, Brent, you and I are on January 3rd covering girls basketball with the regional and Berlin in town, regardless of the standings, regardless of what's happened up until that point of the season. You know that's going to be a battle. And then on January 10th, we continue to expand our coverage as we go to Portsmouth, where Portsmouth will host Pinkerton. I believe is that a Division I game?
Division I game, yeah.
So Division I game expanding as we go.
7 o'clock start, probably.
7 o'clock.
Yeah. Yep. No, sorry, Matt. Berlin White Mountains, a great rivalry, has been since the two towns were incorporated back in the 1700s.
As the only 2 Division III teams up here.
Yeah.
You have Coach Picard, Coach Perry, Coach Foss, all well versed in the game of basketball and coaching. And the only game that matters for them is that game against Berlin or that game against White Mountains Regional.
Absolutely.
So there you have it, folks. That's Sports Talk with Matt and Brent. Again, my name's Matt. This is Brent Coble. Behind the scenes, we have Zach and Chad bringing all of this to you. Without them, we could not do it. We're going to have another.
Thanks to Coach Eli Vincent for coming on the program today.
That's right.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you. Again, thanks to Coach Eli Vincent as well. We're going to be around soon. We have another episode coming up within the next few weeks. Again, January 3rd, girls basketball. White Mountains Regional host Berlin, and January 10th, Portsmouth host Pinkerton. Brent, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be back at it, Matt. It's been we've had a little hiatus from sports talk, and it's good to be back in the studio.
And here we go. All right, everybody, take care. Happy holidays, and we'll see you around.